Hey guys, it's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. We're talking NFL action headed to the AFC South where the Titans are on the road at the Jaguars. Christmas is right around the corner and we've got a promo code. The code is ELF, ELF, for 20% off the entire site at picksandparlays.net. The Titans are 7.5-point favorites. The total is 52.5. The Titans are 8-4 straight up, 5-7 against the number. The Jaguars are 1-11, 6-6 against the spread. However, their one win coming against an AFC South foe in the Colts. The Jags have lost 7 games by just one score, though, so they're keeping it close sometimes, and they have covered in some games. We've got Lee from ASA joining us to talk about this one. Lee, what jumps off the page when you see the Titans and the Jags?
Well, my first instincts, when I see the amount of money being bet on Tennessee and the number of tickets coming in on the Titans, and then to see that line, which opened at 9.5, now get bet down to 7.5, is a little bit alarming to me, but the line moves and the tickets aren't always right. So I'm going to lay the points with Tennessee, lay the 7 points. We've got a team that's fighting for the playoffs coming off a bad loss. Sounds like they had a great focus week of practice. Derrick Henry had a really subpar game last week. I think he had 60 yards rushing. Titans are 4th in the NFL in total offense. They average 390 yards per game, and they're going against a Jacksonville defense that's 32nd last. They give up 416 yards per game. Titans are the 4th best rushing offense. Jags 30th in stopping the run. Jacksonville's lost 11 straight games. As you mentioned, 4 of the last 5 have been decided by 4 points or less. But I do think Tennessee will get it done by a wider margin, a double-digit margin here in this one.
Yeah, if anything, Derrick Henry is probably looking forward to this one. He has quite the history when it comes to the Jaguars. If you remember that 99-yard touchdown run, I think it was in primetime against the Jags. Along with that, 104 rush yards he's averaging against AFC South opponents. I would look for a prop for Derrick Henry in this one just because he's over 100 yards, it seems like, almost every week, with the exception of last week, just because the Titans were down in a hole so heavily that they had to throw the ball. I don't think that's going to be the case in this one. I'm taking the over as well, just because the Titans cannot stop anyone. For some reason or another, they have not hired a defensive coordinator, and it showed when it comes to their defense. My goodness, the Browns had their way with them. No, I'm not saying the Jaguars are as good as the Browns, but I think they can at least move the ball. And plus, the over is hitting 8 of the last 10 with one push for the Titans. They've been really hot when it comes to the over since switching quarterbacks to Ryan Tannehill last season. And then you've got the Jaguars, who've scored at least 20 points in 5 of their last 6 games. And we've mentioned how some of these games have been a little bit tighter for the Jags, 7 games where they only lost by 1 score. And then the Titans have been really bad as favorites, 2-6 against the number as favorites. And also, it is my hometown team, so I am a little cautious to lay them sometimes just because it's doubly bad when they lose and you bet on them. So last meeting, the Titans won 33-30, and the Jaguars had 480 total yards of offense, and both teams combined for 834 yards of total offense. I see the same thing happening in this one. I'm going over 52.5. Is there anything else that you think bettors should know?
Yeah, interesting point about that last game, and they did put up a ton of yards in that game, and I do think that's going to help Tennessee's focus for this one. I don't think they'll overlook Jacksonville here. The Titans' 2 last road wins, they won by 19 in Indianapolis and by 6 in Baltimore in overtime. So a little bit wider margin there. And the Jags do have a couple home blowout losses. They got blown out by Miami earlier this year by 18 by Detroit, and 24 by Pittsburgh. So there is that capability of a blowout win for Tennessee, and I do think both teams will score enough that you'll probably get your over too.
Well, and especially because the Titans are coming off a very embarrassing loss to the Browns. I think they're going to really play with some urgency in this one, despite the opponent. I think they know that their defense can't stop anybody, so they're going to come out very aggressive, or at least I think they should come out very aggressive. That's going to do it for our Titans and Jags talk here on Picks and Parlays. As always, great stuff from Lee from ASA. Lee, thanks for joining us.